Alright, the last video I released was about the truth about collecting Hot Wheels cars. I forgot to mention some details in the video, so I'm going to cover them here real quick. When it comes to collecting Hot Wheels cars, if you are not familiar with the years that are most collectible and some of the series that carry the most value, understand that Hot Wheels cars started 1 year after Matchbox started creating their 1/64 scale Hot Wheels cars. So Matchbox started in approximately 1967. Hot Wheels followed up the following year of 1968 with a better detailed casting than what Matchbox did. So they got a lot more attention. From 1968 to the early 1970s, say 1972, the Hot Wheels cars actually had a rim, a tire and rim combination that had a red pinstripe on the wheel itself. That year and that series is considered to be the red line. Those are the most collectible. You can understand that when they first came out, there was no prior production to increase the value of what they were. They were very cheap, so a lot of kids had Hot Wheels cars, and they played with them, put them in the sandbox, and the numbers dwindled away. So to find those in good condition, or even still in a package, is very sought after amongst collectors or anybody that wants to have a keepsake of those eras. From approximately 1972 through 1978, they had a couple different other variations, but they consider those years the black wall Hot Wheels. So they got rid of that red stripe and the tires were just solid black, but they played around with different colors and paint schemes on the different cars, molding different cars. So if you find cars made in that year, sometimes they'll have gold rims, chrome rims, just solid black, but they're all black plastic tires. Another thing with Hot Wheels cars, throughout the years, is to identify which ones are made out of pot metal or plastic. And there is no specific year from 1968 to present day that verifies that they're all metal or all plastic or a combination of the two. There are spin-off series of the Hot Wheels that are called all steel. So more modern day, say 2010 on, they had the Real Steel spin-off series where the cars were actually metal, all metal with plastic black wheels. Okay? Those are still produced in high numbers. The age of the cars from 1972 to 1978, that black series, again, there isn't a pre-leader. There wasn't cars that were 20 years old to become collectibles. Now the cars that were produced in these years are getting to be more desirable, but they also started fluctuating between using metal, pot metal, and plastic on those variations. In the years of 1990 through 2000, Hot Wheels really started getting into detail of each casting of car. Normally, these here, the bottom portion, they were all kind of generic. They all had the exhaust piping, the exact same transmission. They might have just a little bit different length depending on the car, whether it was a station wagon or a little Volkswagen Beetle. But other than that, the underneath, the detail into them was exactly the same. In 1990 to 2000, Hot Wheels really started changing the car to match whatever chassis was on the top or whatever body it was. So if you got the American Muscle Car of 1990, the underside chassis matched what the actual manufactured car of that era had. Even to the point where the engines that were in the car, they were connected to the, say, if they had side pipes that came out the side, they were actually one piece, and the engine itself was also cast pot metal. In about 2001 or so, Hot Wheels got very inconsistent. They started doing all kinds of different spin-offs and different models, and the die-cast collectible hobby started to really explode. And most of the attention for Hot Wheels cars transferred over to NASCAR. So whether it be 1/64 scale or the larger variations, whether it be dragsters, airplanes, they really started to expand onto different models. Where in the earlier years you couldn't necessarily get airplanes and helicopters; it was all cars or trucks. In this era, they started coming out with different variations of trucks with bigger wheels on them. And even the wheels being made out of different materials other than plastic. Right after the death of Dale Earnhardt Sr., the die-cast collectibles started to draw a lot of attention in the very short years following his death. So approximately 2000 to 2005, there was a lot of competition within the market, and a lot of the attention was being drawn to the larger scale models, and the small 40 or 50-cent Hot Wheels cars didn't have as much pizzazz to them. If you remember about old guys that are old enough, in 2008, the economy crashed. From 2008 to 2010, the cars that they made at that time were mostly older muscle cars from the late 60s and early 70s. Or specifically race cars, road course race cars, or modified race cars with engines sticking out of the hood and big tires in the back, small ones in the front. That was in direct competition with muscle machines. Another metal casting small scale manufacturer out there. And muscle cars, the very first 2 years that it came out, say 2006, I believe was the first year. You'll have to correct me on the dates if you guys know exactly. It just doesn't come right specifically right to mind. But 2008 through or 2006 to 2008, muscle machines became the new thing to collect, and they offered them in 1/64 scale and much larger variations with big engines out of them, with display stands and all that stuff. So you had multiple different manufacturers competing for sales, whether it be Hot Wheels or Matchbox or the muscle machines. So the amount of Hot Wheels produced at that time was smaller, and they were more detailed. The rims of the tires were matched to the manufacturers. If you're buying like a Carroll Shelby or something like that, it had the rims to match the actual Carroll Shelby car. So these are very collectible years to actually look at, because during that inflation, people that had the money, so they were buying the cheaper toys, so the Hot Wheels. Starting in 2012, Hot Wheels started introducing the Treasure Hunt series, and I explained that more in the last video. The 2012 to the modern day 2020 Treasure Hunt vehicles have gone through multiple different phases, to where it was a separate spin-off series, and now they took that series and started including it into mainline Hot Wheels cars as the years went on, and now those are the collectibles in the different cases that the stores are getting today. Again, if you're looking for the actual cars that will carry value for a long time, just like if we look back all the way to 1968, the Blackwall series, and the 1990s, the 2000s, and that short span of 2008 to 2010, all of those cars that are very sought after within those years are made of all pot metal. Very little on the cars are actually plastic. Sometimes like the lower fairings or a fin on the back was made out of plastic, even like the red wall series cars did back in the day. Now, about the same time, about 2012, is when Hot Wheels introduced another spin-off series of cast vehicles that mimicked prototype cars or one-of-a-kind type cars. So if a custom shop like, say, Chip Foose or Boyd Coddington created a one-off vehicle, they would get the rights to cast that vehicle and sell it as a higher version than the mainline Hot Wheels cars. They carried a higher price tag on the pegs at the store, so they're more collectible. They're also made out of complete pot metal, cast pot metal. No plastic or very little, just components, accessory components that are plastic. In 2018, Hot Wheels started making duplicate variations between their collector series and their main lines. You could find the collector series or the treasure hunts in 2018. Now they're releasing those exact same cars in 2022, and they're not considered to be treasure hunts, but they're the exact same vehicle. So now the only difference between in price value is literally that 5 or 6 years of release and the manufacturing date, but they're exact same casting. So it can get difficult to find out exactly which ones to start with if you want to narrow your collection down to a specific series or certain years. The muscle cars, the factory American muscle cars of Chevy, Ford, or Chrysler products are always going to be the mainstay. They're always going to be stable within the price value. These supercars like Ferrari, Lamborghini, those prototype cars, those are the ones that you're going to have, that might hold a little bit of value, but you're going to have to find a specific buyer that wants those cars. Where the muscle cars pretty much are, they're desirable to all walks of life. Also, the location, like I said in the previous video, the location of where those vehicles are actually cast and assembled also dictates the value. So pretty much all of your Chinese manufactured Hot Wheels have more plastic components on them than, say, one that is made in Malaysia or Thailand. If you're buying cars, more modern day cars in like 2020 to 2022 that are called track cars, those cars are normally 100% cast pot metal with larger diameter plastic tires, so for a lower rolling resistance. So if you're buying the actual Hot Wheels tracks and loops and launchers, those cars are going to work the best. One of the other things that you'll notice on those cars at the castings that are in front of the front wheels. So if this is the outline of a Hot Wheels car, and this is your front tires, the metal casting right on these corners here are going to be flush with the outside of the tires. And normally they're going to have an upwards rake to them. They're not going to have large airfoils that stick down. Those cars are specifically made to run on the orange Hot Wheels tracks and go faster than the other production models of Hot Wheels throughout the years. They're heavier because of the solid cast bodies. They have the larger wheels for lower resistance, and the design of the chassis, they could even have the back that's completely narrowed off with big back tires back here. What that is meant to do is if it's got a corner in the track, this metal hits the track and not the wheel to slow it down. So in all the models that are track models will have that additional metal designed into the front of the car, and the entire car is going to be metal. None of those track series are going to be treasure hunts, but don't overlook them. Because if you actually do, you can watch other YouTube channels that actually guys go out there and actually set up race tracks, multiple lane race tracks for Hot Wheels cars. The track variations are always the fastest. They're designed to be, and they're constructed to be. So if your kid likes to do that stuff, with a track going from your second story of your house all the way down to the basement, those are the cars that are really going to haul. Plus, if you're doing races across a floor, whether it be a hardwood floor or across carpeting, those race cars are actually going to travel farther across a rough surface compared to any of the other variations of the Hot Wheels cars. Now, trucks. So we've been talking mostly about cars, smaller diameter wheels, low to the ground cars. Hot Wheels trucks throughout the years have changed drastically. Even to the point now, your modern day 2020 are starting to come out with some massive like monster truck tires. They even have a spin-off series of Hot Wheels monster trucks to simulate the big grandstand monster trucks. But they did make monster trucks that simulated like Bigfoot monster truck with smaller plastic tires, and those actually hold their value. Another thing with trucks that just reminded me, in the 1980s, so I've pretty much skipped over 1979 through 1989. During those years, more Hot Wheels were sold than any other year combined during that century. Now, in that century, Hot Wheels came out with a couple different variations of cars that offered plastic wheels, rubber wheels, or large wheels, and also adjustable rear suspensions. The rear suspensions, I believe they're called the high lifts or hijacks. Hijacks, I believe they're called. I had some when I was a kid. I haven't seen any in the collectible places where I've been at. I've seen guys online that have them, but they'll offer that exact same, say like a 49 Ford Coupe with plastic wheels or rubber wheels that has an adjustable, extendable rear suspension to make the car, get a whole bunch of rake to it. That was offered in the mid to late 1980s. A very short run of those cars. Again, even though they're not considered to be treasure hunts, the production number of those cars are very low, and they were produced in the years where the most amount of hot rods were ever created from year to year. During these years, in 1979 through 1989, they didn't only release cars by year. So they might release a casting from 1981 and they were still available on the shelf in 1987. The manufacturing date on the car was still 1981, but the packaging might be 1987. So there's nothing specific to the years in that era. All the rest of these eras, the Hot Wheels are specific to year of manufacture and distribution. So if it's manufactured in 2021, it might be distributed in 2022. It's going to be a close variation. What I've been noticing now is that some of the 2022 versions are previous models from 2012 or 2018 on being released now as a 2022 model, when they were actually manufactured or produced back then. So there's, while the information is out there on the Hot Wheels websites for a year, and there's multiple individuals, collectors on here that are telling you these are the ones that are collectible, you still have to just be aware of what's everything's out there, and the cars that you see the lowest amount of numbers on are still going to be the higher collectible vehicles. For instance, I'm going to finish up with this. If you look at the black wall tires of 1972 through 1978, in that era, your Hemi Cudas, your Superbirds, your Chevelles were very sought after, highly collectible cars. They matched the kind of production numbers that were being produced from the manufacturers, auto manufacturers at the time. The more rare the cars were from the actual automobile manufacturers, they're also the same way with the Hot Wheels cars. So if you're looking for the 1972 or 1973 AMC Javelin Mark Donohue edition, they're worth a lot. Even though they are the black series, they're going to fall into the same category as some of the 1972 Red Line series, because the numbers are going to be that smaller number. If you were looking at Camaro, say you're a Camaro fan and that's the only thing you collect is Camaros. There was a short time in 2018 where they actually offered as the Super Treasure Hunt of 2018, I believe it was, or 2019. That was a solid white 1968 Camaro with the rubber tires from the Hijacker series years of like 1987, 1989. So they must have had some parts left over. They swapped them on a car that they had the lowest numbers on. They released them as a low production number vehicle, and there you go. Even though that 1969 Camaro is the exact same casting that they've used from 1968, okay, or 1969 Camaro, from 1970 all the way through to 2022, it's the exact same casting of the 1969 Camaro, or the exact same casting of a 1969 Firebird. Only variations is the release date, the tire and ring combinations, and some of the colors and paint schemes that go on to them, or what series they were put into. This is going to be associated with just single package, single peg type vehicles. Throughout the years, you could buy all the different series as a series itself within a case, a 5-pack, a 20-pack, a race car, and a loader car. You could even get the Hot Wheels mechanics shop with a 2-post or 4-post hoist. They had a car that came with that kit. They had a series, spin-off series of cars that were Coca-Cola series cars or Pepsi-Cola. The Pepsi ones actually are worth more value than the Coca-Cola ones, because the Coca-Cola ones were produced in higher numbers. And for a short time before politics got involved, from 1979 to 1989, also other manufacturers, as in alcohol and even cigarette manufacturers, were advertised on the paint schemes of some of the Hot Wheels cars, which today cannot be done. I believe that was something that passed in about 2005 to 2007. So anything that has a like skull tobacco product emblem on it, whether it's NASCAR or a regular Hot Wheels street car, those are very collectible. Anything with the Camel from Camel tobacco products is going to carry a higher value. It was only offered for that shorter amount of time. Anything with the original Winston series of NASCAR is going to hold some of its value. And anything of Dale Earnhardt Sr. prior to his death in the early 2000s is going to carry a little bit higher value amongst collectors. with the generations that were buying those cars brand new are now starting to get back into the collecting of those vehicles. They're looking back to try to get those exact same vehicles they had when they were kids, and that's what's continued to hold their value. Just like the Redwall series, because of the numbers are so low, and the baby boom era that had those cars are now coming back around to collect them. They want those original ones, but they realize the ones that they had as their kids got destroyed, smashed, set on fire, whatever. Those numbers are drastically going down, and that's why the Red Wheels series are so collectible. The Blackwall series are starting to become even more collectible, and the 1990 through 2000 right now, that's going to be the highest detail variations for the collection era. And then from 1979 through 1989 is when Hot Wheels really started to give a lot of different spin-offs and different series, whether it be rubber tires, monster trucks. So always look for those first beginning series of the break-offs from the additional cars that they started out with. Look for specialty Hot Wheels, whether they were kits or a series of like first responders. So if they were fire trucks, police cars, airport fire trucks, plow trucks was another big one, utility vehicles, front end loaders, dump trucks. Those will carry a lot of value because they don't offer those exact same kind of cars, and they haven't since probably about 2000. They stopped making like the larger airport salt truck, plow truck, orange industrial vehicle. They never offered that vehicle after about 2000. So those numbers are starting to deplete. And because they weren't a collectible muscle car, the number of those vehicles still available from people keeping them over the years is a lot lower. I can go to garage sales or estate sales, even to a collector shop, and I can't find the utility vehicles. Well, they might have a shelf full of 1969 Camaros. So just keep that in mind. If you're getting into collecting, don't go with the mainstay of what everybody's telling you. Look at the ones that are going to be the least amount available 20 or 30 years from now. Those are the ones going to be carrying the value. So that's where I kind of differ on what my opinion is as far as collecting Hot Wheels cars today, because all the collectors are concentrating on that treasure hunt series or the super treasure hunts. Or they look at the spin-off series that might only be made in a smaller quantity, like say the Batmobiles or the Jurassic Park variations, which right now I can tell you, because that's what I'm collecting from my son, is the Jurassic Park ones. They have a 20 car kit, and I've looked through brand new cases and brand new displays, and they'll have every car within that series except for one, and that's the number 3 Blue Raptor from the newest Jurassic Park Dominion or Jurassic World Dominion movie. So even unopened cases that I've gotten my hands onto, they're missing that car. So that car is either going to be available later this year, or it's only going to come in a kit, either a track kit or a 2 vehicle kit or something with like figurines in it, in order to get that car. So I know right now that that car will be collectible in the future. So I got my eyes open for it. So with that, hopefully that breaks it down a little bit more. Previous video, like I said, I got a little bit more showing you the Hot Wheels cars, talking about different aspects of the treasure hunt, super treasure hunts, how to notice the difference. This is going to break it down a little bit more by year. Realize that I'm just getting back into this, so my numbers might not be exactly correct. Okay, 1968, 1972, if that's off a couple years, okay, 1968 or 1969, or if it ended in 1972 or 1973, okay, you look that up yourself. But realize that a lot of things that are not spoken of is the 1979 through 1989 Hot Wheels cars. the 1990 through 2000, the volume of cars that were produced, the highest amount in that 10 years, the highest amount of Hot Wheels cars were produced, and there's a couple series or a couple cars within that years that were low production, that are very desirable, and they realize anytime that there's a era of inflation from like 2008 to 2010 or 2021 2022, you want to look at collecting these cheaper Hot Wheels cars because they're affordable and because they're in that era of that inflation, their numbers are going to be lower than they were during this era. They're going to have all kinds of different things thrown in there, so you got to kind of keep up on it. And that's the only thing you're going to be able to get is just by watching yourself within your area and online. If you're serious about selling Hot Wheels cars, purchasing or selling Hot Wheels cars, the only legitimate way that I've seen that you can get the money out of them as you can is online. If you start taking the online prices and putting them on stickers or on the cards or anything like that and taking them to like car shows or antique shops or whatever, you're never going to get that value. In order to actually get what the estimated value is of those vehicles is from people online that are looking for those models. Obviously, anybody that knows anything about collecting is looking for the red line series. What they don't understand is that the 1972 through 1978 variations of the black wall tires are starting to get even more as collectible as the red line series. And then the spin-off versions from 1979 to 1989 are starting to get a large following, especially ones with the rubber tires or the hijackers. They only offer like 5 different cars with the hijackers, and they're all highly desirable right now. So hopefully that helps out. Got any questions or comments, go ahead and add them in below. If I can figure out the answer for you, I will. And if you can correct me, don't worry about it, because like I said, I'm just now getting back into this within the last 2 months. So I've only had 2 months to basically look up the information and do the research, so bear with me. With that, have a good one.